Good evening once again, dear viewers of Dash TV, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kingsley, Nche, and you're watching the Prime Time. Let's begin the way. The board members of the National School of Local Administration are demanding more training and research financially viable policies from the government of Cameroon. Their demands were expressed recently during a meeting that took place amongst the board chair members and the administration of that institution with the aim of evaluating and examining the budgetary allocation of the year 2021. And as Premier Agbo tells us in the following report, this meeting follows another that was organized earlier this month on 16th of June, where issues related to national decentralization were equally discussed. Her report.
The 2021 financial situation for the National School of Local Administration, NASLA, meeting has come under review as board members met in Boya. Director General Nche Nche outlined key issues to be tackled throughout this session.
I think that the session today was dedicated to the examination of our different financial documents, our management accounts, our administrative accounts, our performance reports, and also we reviewed a few resolutions on the internal rules and regulations governing the staff of NASLA. I think that in a nutshell, that is what was examined in the board meeting of today.
Going by records, an estimated expenditure fund of 3,920,380,000, including a 2 billion and plus francs CFA, is meant for functioning, alongside a 1 billion plus for investment was the 2021 voted budget. During this session, 2 draft resolutions were adopted for the smooth running, which included the draft amendment of the recruitment plan for the 2022 financial year and the appointment of new NASLA officials. Also, NASLA staff, with further recommendation, aims at boosting its own revenues in the training, research and cooperation angles.
We're here to see how far the General Director General has improved in the way and the budget that we voted for him last year. So for the 2021, he has to render accounts so much so that he is able to send it to the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Decentralization.
It is coming at a time when government is urging local and regional administrators to prioritize the recruitment of NASLA graduates into the AGAN resolutions, which add to the June 16, 2022 National Decentralization Meeting, which government urged NASLA to hold competitive entrance exams into NASLA to begin this year.
Thank you, Premier Agbo. Now, Cameroon is getting ready to combat crime in all its forms as the country will be getting ready and preparing its stakeholders properly trained in the domain. The same are expected to convene in Yaoundé from July 19 to the 22nd on the occasion of the 7th Global Conference of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals. The event is expected to bring together crime investigators from over 100 countries worldwide and will equally showcase the role of forensics in battling against financial crimes, terrorism, and corruption. Peter Nsosi has more.
Mobile phones and computers have become important working tools in the finance, security, and marketing fields. As efficient as these tools are, they are also catalysts for corruption, cyber terrorism, and financial crimes. To counter these growing threats, forensic investigation skills are key.
Building capacities by bringing in innovative solutions and by equipping the various agencies put in place by government, giving them the technical know-how and the resources which they need to be able to be effective and efficient in the carrying out their duties.
Cameroon will on the 19th of July 2022 host the 7th Global Conference of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals. Experts will reflect on key issues such as white-collar crimes, cyber terrorism, fake news, as well as digital transformation. The protection of critical infrastructure using certified forensic experts will also come into play.
Do you know that education, emergency services, healthcare, financial services industries, public security. These are all critical structures. We are going to train and teach and see how we brainstorm on how best we can protect our critical infrastructures.
The creation of a critical infrastructure task force and hands-on training on anti-corruption for state and private development institutions are major expectations from the conference. About 1,500 delegates from about 100 countries across the world are expected to attend the high-level conference placed under the patronage of the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Jongute.
We'll definitely be looking up to that event as the time is right for it. Now, if you're a refugee residing in the east region of Cameroon, especially in the towns of Manju and Garabulai, here's some good news for you. You won't have to grapple for a resident permit anymore. Thanks to an agreement signed between authorities and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, the government of Cameroon is providing refugee cards to all those who are refugees in those towns of the country. Nche for more.
A total of 6,000 refugees from the Central African Republic will be identified for the production of their cards. Cameroonian authorities say these identification cards will enable them benefit from public services and gain access to businesses. Several ministries are involved in the process, which mostly concerns refugees living in the East region. The Ministry of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development is responsible for the technical coordination of the operation, while the UNHCR verifies the status of the refugees. The Ministry of External Relations, for its part, conducts the interviews and issues refugee certificates. Meanwhile, the Delegate for National Security performs biometric enrollment and issues receipts. The first stage of enrollment took place from June 25th to 29th this year. The World Bank is financing the pilot phase of the project with 40 million francs CFA. The operation will later be extended to the Adamawa, North and Far North regions where thousands of refugees live. A total cost of around 800 million francs CFA has been earmarked for the entire project. By this move, the state is assuming its responsibility of identifying the refugees on its soil, something which has been done by the UNHCR up until now.
Let's move over to Senegal, where the electoral tension is more than ever before on the rise. The leader of the opposition wing, Ousmane Sonko, has urged his partisans to deter all demonstrations for the moment. Ousmane Sonko was left no choice anyway, as the Senegalese government had already banned all purported strike actions related to the upcoming legislative elections. A ban that has met with fierce opposition from the opposition leader, you might pardon the repetition, who equally vowed to mar the polls to come. Valerie Monono has more.
Under the leadership of Ousmane Sonko, a new strategy for the Senegalese opposition, Veuillez coalition, has been to urge its supporters to express their discontent with President Macky Sall through the ballot box. Ousmane Sonko also added during a press briefing in Dakar that anti-government demonstrations initially scheduled on June 29 were postponed.
We have nothing to gain if we go on with this strategy. What remains to be done? We must move resolutely towards the legislative elections, and the Senegalese must disavow Macky Sall over his economic leadership. The Senegalese disavow him in relation to his unhealthy political practices, turned in to instrumentalize justice to remove political opponents. If Macky Sall loses the National Assembly on July 31st, there will be no more talk of a third term in this country.
Up until this point of diversion, the opposition leader has threatened that there will be no legislative election in the country on July 31st. This decision comes after the interior minister deemed the coalition list on which he was featured inadmissible, barring the leader from contesting, which unfortunately resulted to the Veuillez supporters demonstrating on June 17th, a bad demonstration which led to clashes between the police and Ousmane Sonko's supporters. As a result, 3 people died following the incident and many more were arrested. And across the country, citizens banged pots and pans in protest against the president and the ruling Benno Bokk Yakaar coalition.
Thank you, Valerie Monono. A brand new partnership has been created between President Felix Jacobi of the Democratic Republic of Congo and his former director of civil cabinet, Vital Kamerhe. This was after he was acquitted of a 20-year jail sentence hanging over him for corruption and embezzlement. Bibiana Shinita Mvuma has more.
It has been 2 years since justice put the two apart. Vital Kamerhe, the former director of cabinet to President Felix Jacobi, who had been put away on charges of embezzlement, has finally been acquitted and all charges dropped. Besides all celebration, he thought to begin with a visit to his former boss, the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo. This meeting gave them the chance to revamp their bond and reassure relations. The President of the L'Union Nationale pour le Congo, l'UNC, stood the chance of spending over 20 years in jail after being accused of having misappropriated funds meant for the construction of some police structures. These charges later fetched him a 13-year jail term, and then it moved down to a 0. His acquittal has been a great celebration to his family and friends, who were particularly happy to once more have him in their midst. According to Kamerhe, the partnership between his party and Tshisekedi's L'Union pour la démocratie et le progrès social, l'UDPS, will henceforth be strong enough to brave all odds. Vital Kamerhe's case was dropped on basis of insufficient evidence.
Well, Bibiana Shinita Mvuma, Vital Kamerhe is definitely making his comeback into the domain of politics. Let's stay in politics still, but to talk about health, as the condition of José Eduardo dos Santos is very critical as we speak. Though the former president of Angola is currently undergoing treatment in Spain, reports have it that his situation is rather deteriorating. A deteriorating situation that has become a call for concern for many of his lovers. Nche has more.
It's a tough moment for Angola's former president, José Eduardo dos Santos. He's currently undergoing treatment in Spain, but reports say his situation has worsened over time. The Portuguese media Expresso even describes the 79-year-old as being between life and death. While a meeting was planned between José Eduardo dos Santos' medical team and his family, Angola's foreign minister reportedly traveled to Spain on Thursday to monitor the situation. The former president, who ruled Angola for 38 years, had been on exile in Spain since 2019. He, however, returned home for the first time in 2021 after he left power. He later returned to Barcelona, where he's been following medical treatment. The news of his deteriorating health condition has left many people concerned. With the foreign minister embarking on a monitoring trip, the wish of Angolans, especially the ex-president's family, is that his state of health improves.
Well, we're wishing the best to the former president of Angola. Now, if you're a lover of fashion, just sit back and chill. This report is certainly for you. But I wonder if you've heard about the word sap. Congolese dapper dressers, commonly known as sapper, continue giving new meaning to fashion as trendsetters are finding it difficult to develop the African fashion sector. Being part of the movement devoted to high fashion in the Democratic Republic of Congo, they want the practice to be listed as part of the UNESCO cultural heritage. Subiru Madina now takes us back into how that fashion became practiced in that part of Africa.
The streets of Congo's capital, Brazzaville, continue taking on a more stylish appearance thanks to the sappers, a sartorial subculture of colorful dandies inspired by but not always faithful to the great tailors of the 1960s. Dapper dressers, known as sappers, are part of a movement devoted to high fashion in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but trendsetters are finding it difficult to develop the African fashion sector. Close to 4 months after the Rumba, the sappers want to see this art, which they define as the Society of Stylish People, listed as part of UNESCO's heritage. For Noba de Paris, UNESCO ambassador of SAP, it is a Congolese heritage that should be registered at UNESCO because, economically speaking, SAP creates jobs. One can say a SAP and Rumba are closely related, as we have the sappers with their rhythmic steps and stylish clothes. For Sidonie Elapai, ambassador of female sapper in Africa,
A musician cannot sing without showing off his steps or dancing. The sappers also can't show off without having music. Many travel to Congo-Brazzaville to understand the phenomenon of the sap. However, aware of the long process it takes in registering a work of art as part of the heritage of humanity, the sappers from both Brazzaville and Kinshasa are calling on authorities to promote this practice more for a better representation of African brands.
Well, I wish Subiru Madina was on this set in order to tell me if I'm well sapped. I hope I'm not bad, guys.